Yeah, welcome everyone. Simon, Duncan, Paladin, Keith. Yeah, Orca, hello. Roger, hello, Christine. Wait for you all to appear. Judith. Yes, Rianimala.
Why hasn't it got me?
So is that you saying something then? Oh, there we are, Fennet. Very good.
Yeah, it took a while for the camera to decide to film me. It just,
Yeah, sorry we're a little bit late. There was a technical hitch at the Buddhist Society's end. Let me just let's go through the rigmarole of screen share. Oops. There we are. Oops. So try again. Okay, we should be set now. So following the muddle I got myself into last time round, hopefully I've got it right this time. So what I was proposing to do, yes, hello Mariano. What I was proposing to do was just to check whether there were any further queries or comments on that section from the Visuddhimagga that we looked at last time. That's the one that Paladin identified. Let me just call it up. Visuddhimagga. There we are. There's one point that I had on it, and that was the point. This is about the mother's attitude towards her children in different stages of life. You know, baby, one who's sick, one who's just coming into the bloom of youth, and the other who's busy with his own affairs. And I think it was you, Simon, who said that, even when the children are grown up, was it you said, you're still concerned about them, just because they're grown up and busy with their own affairs doesn't mean you don't care anymore, which is.
Yeah, I think it was Roger who raised that one, but I have another point to make about that. I was
okay, right.
Exactly the same point.
Okay, but I just wanted to point out that the word here, avyaprata in Sanskrit, avyavrata in feminine form in Pali, it actually doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you are not actively engaged, actually busy doing something. So you might be sitting back, watching your grown-up children make an absolute mess of their lives and be in despair about it. And you care very much. But this vyaprata has the idea of actually being busy with it, actively doing things. And in fact, in modern Hindi, vyapar, which is the verbal noun from it, means business, doing business. So I don't think he says you don't care about them. I think you aren't actively busy doing something, like knowing when to stand back, however much they might break your heart, knowing when to stand back. But Simon, you said you had another point as well.
2 points about this one and another minor question. One of them was there is a vyavata, which is to be concerned, to be busy with. Could you say something about the origin of that? It's obviously VR something, but what's the vata bit on the end?
If you look down to the note at the bottom, it's avyaprita in Sanskrit. This is a case where the root of the verb is a pr. meaning to be busy with something. And what's happened is that so avyaprita, not busy with it, as it's come into Pali, Pali normally doesn't do this, but here the which which is central to it, that's the root, has actually mutated into a v, so the p is lost and has become a v. Let me just call up Monia Williams on the point. So I think I've lost if I lost Monia Williams. Come on, Monia Williams, here we are. If you look down here, that's the second root that I've highlighted here. Pranuti or priyate means to be busy with something. Normally found, or in fact, according to Monia Williams, only found in the apri and viapri, meaning to be busily engaged with something. So, if we've been thinking of heartless, but the gurus are thinking that you aren't concerned with them, the answer is you aren't actively getting yourself involved when it's wiser to stand back, I think is the point here.
I was also wondering whether it could be read in a different way. If we have kisminchi, which is basically in whatever way, and then we could pariyaye, kisminchi pariyaye.
Kisminchi pariyaye, yes.
Yeah, in whatever way. If the hoti doesn't refer to the mother, she is unconcerned, and if that could possibly, the avyavata could be a noun, maybe an abstract noun, we might almost use that in the same way that you would the relative, as in Yavatar, in the other reading we've got today, in the sense that in whatever way there is unconcern, which would mean to the extent that one can be unconcerned about one's adult child, where you can't be unconcerned about a tiny baby or a sick child, you're beside yourself. But to the extent that one can be unconcerned about your adult attending to their own affairs, there is that type of Brahma Vihara. Would that work?
Well, I think it would work, but I mean, I don't want to rush in and say there is a fatal flaw in your argument, but if I have correctly understood, I think there could be a fatal flaw. Are you saying that avyavata here acts as an abstract noun? There is unconcernedness, there is a state of being unconcerned?
In effect, or even if it could be just saying that the mother is one who is unconcerned, to the extent that there is unconcern, or to the extent that there is an unconcerned mother. So the hoti is about something existing, not that she is.
Let me just go. Well, to give it that interpretation, you'd need to make that an abstract noun.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise it is a feminine noun. Were you trying to make this final ta the ta ending of the abstract noun?
Or just that it could be a noun, that it could be there is unconcernedness.
No, okay. The reason that doesn't work is because this, to make it work, the avyava would have to be, you'd have to have an adjective avyava, and then to make an abstract noun by adding the ta. Now, you fall down, I'm afraid, Simon, despite your brilliant attempt. There are two hurdles. Firstly, a vyava is not, the word doesn't exist on its own. And also, if you wanted to add the ta as the abstract noun ending, it would be a ta, the dental ta. This is the ta. So the abstract noun ending is always a word, usually an adjective, followed by ta, dental ta. Here we've got a ta, which is distinctly part of the that's part of the original adjective. So in Sanskrit, avyaprita, that's an adjective. Vyaprita, concerned, bothered. Avyaprita, unconcerned, not engaged, and that has become a ta in Pali because the preceding in Sanskrit. So I can't see any way that I can make that an abstract noun. And also, if you look at the preceding, you've got these, basically it's divided into four possible attitudes, four broad categories of motherly concern. And for all of them, you've got the abhivudakama here, the abhivudakama distinctly. There's nothing else that can be apart from an adjective in the feminine gender because it's the mother. Equally, the next one, Gelinyapanaya Kama, Yobanaprasa Chiratikama. So you've got this is the third one, Vyavata. And that hoti has to refer to the mother. It would be, you would be straining things, even if you were linguistically capable of being correct about that individual word. We've got this sequence of four adjectives, all in the feminine singular, to describe what the mother is doing, what she's feeling about it.
Yes, I was trying to get round this sense of puzzlement about giving up concern for your adult child, but I think your prior point sorts that anyway. So yeah, that does it nicely.
Okay, is all puzzlement gone? I don't like to leave any of my students. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that, Simon.
Could I ask just a tiny little point about the earlier one about the sakitcha pasutesu, so the son who is concerned with his own business. And I was wondering where I'd seen that before, and the pasuta, and I remembered it comes from the Thai Forest Sangha evening chanting. How does it go? Yam punyang pasutang idha. So by the merit of this practice, or the merit of this activity. And I was just wondering, because I haven't seen it elsewhere, is pasuta a past participle? And if so, what of? Do we find it anywhere else?
I haven't dealt with it. It's the past participle of this of the root. So it's one of these root with three. It's a root meaning to finish. I'm sorry, it's a root meaning to tie. So there were two roots. See. Here I'm going to call it up here. And let me just turn off the highlight. It's annoying. Do it again. See. It's the root si, meaning to tie or bind, and it's actually could be cognate with the word like sinew, the tying bits, the binding bits. And if you are, and it's morphed itself into a would be prasita, bound up with, tied up with, involved with. But it's morphed into an u in Pali to become pasuta.
So is that the same su as in sutta and suture?
No, that's from a different one. That is from it's siv. That's from the root sieve. That's to sew, darn, stitch together. In fact, sieve is directly cognate with our English word sew, and of course with the Latin, English via Latin, suture. So there's just a coincidental similarity between them. Actually, even though there's a slight kind of overlap, semantic overlap, isn't it? Kind of tying and sewing. Because if you're tying something, if you're sewing it, it's a different kind of sewing. But they become identified as two separate roots. Whether lost in the earlier mists of time, they were the same kind of thing, is just the slight possibility has just dawned on me now. But from the point of view of pure Sanskrit and Pali linguistics, they are separate roots. But it's an open question for me whether they were thousands of years before treated as the same one. It's kind of possible.
And presumably the pa is an intensifier. So it's like, I mean, I was thinking either su as in suture or su as in happy. So, trying to kind of work this one through, like, being happy with doing it, or being tying it forth, or sewing it forth, putting it into a
this is the pa, the prefix pa in Sanskrit pra. And I think it's just where you might say in English, tied up with something, where in a lot of these cases, as we know, in most cases, I would say, the verbal prefix adds a distinct difference. It has a distinct meaning. In many of them, it doesn't really add much. And the same in English with, for example, up. If you say go up or go down, very distinct meanings. But if you say to somebody drink it and drink it up, the addition of up in a phrase like that doesn't actually, it has a kind of an emotive tone, like finish it off, get the job done. So it's the same in Sanskrit and Pali. Here, I don't think it really. It's just he's in English. You don't say I'm tied today. Say I'm tied up today. So it's rather the same pasutai, or tied up with his own business. In fact, very much the same imagery as we use with tied up with something. If you're bound to it with fetters that make you unable to get away. So does that explain the? Okay, glad to hear it. Okay, so unless there's any more on that, or if there is any more on this passage, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Oh, by the way, one point I would mention, this bhavitabam, that's the future passive participle. And this future passive, when in English, when we think of passives, normally it's only an active verb that can have a passive. You do something or it is done. In Sanskrit and Pali, you can use the passive form of an intransitive verb, even to be or to go. So gantavyam, in Pali gantabam, to be gone, meaning one should go. And here, bhavitabam, it is to be been. In other words, which sounds absurd in English, but you can do it in Sanskrit and Pali, means that one should be. There is a requirement to be. Here it could actually be also a misprint for bhavitabam. So in the original text, it was written with a short a, which makes me slightly uncomfortable. I wanted to say it as bhavitabam, our favorite word, bhavana, meaning the practice, the bringing into being. But here we've got the future passive participle ending the tabba, meaning as it like a general injunction that's what ought to be done. Okay, let us pass on then to hang on, I've got the right paper in front of me. Dhammapada, chapter 9, verses 2 and 3. Got them here. Here we are. Oh, there was another point that Simon raised. Simon does keep me on my toes. Very good that you should do that for me, Simon. Thank you. This kairata, it's actually both forms. This the root kri karoti, it becomes a bit of an irregular, slightly irregular in Sanskrit, but it gets very irregular indeed in Pali. And this, you often have an eta, or eya, or eta as the third person singular optative ending in Pali, and you have the this ata or ata as the second person plural, the you plural ending, imperative and in indicative. For this, this kairata, more commonly, this form would be, and you're right there, Simon, this form would be the second plural imperative. However, it can also be the third singular optative, coincidentally the same form in this slightly irregular verb. So you could treat this as netam hichandam kairata, as one should not create a desire for it, or as an imperative, you must not do not create a desire for it. It could be interpreted in either way. The reason I think gravitated towards treating it as a third singular, let one not do it, was because this the verse is expressed in one should do that, rather than directing ad hominem, directing it at the people, talking to you. This is what you must do. It's talking in the broad general third person singular terms. But from the purely grammatical point of view, Simon, you were right. So was there any, I think we kind of went through this last time. I think we went through all of the vocabulary and grammar of it, if I remember rightly. Now, is there anybody who didn't get a chance to recite it last time round, but who would like to do it this time? Okay. Now, so let's now look at 9.3. Come on, what earth has got in there? Penance. A stray word has slipped in there. Maybe I'd accidentally left my voice. Not that I've been talking about penance. Let me just correct that. Punyance Purisukaira Natang. There should be na.
I think it should be another Kaira, James.
Sorry?
I think it should be the Kaira gets repeated at that point. Punanche Puriso
Yeah, that's
Karia.
right. Natang Kaira. That's right. I got the Natang Kaira.
But it's not negated in this one, is it? Because it's about Punya.
Sorry. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong. Sorry. I'm getting in a total muddle. I'm getting too old for this. Punyance Purisukaira. Kaira nam punam. Okay.
It should be Kaira, I think, from the Devanagari, the second one, whereas it is written Kariya at the moment.
Actually, in the edition I've got here, Punyan che puriso kaira, kairata, kairatenam is what I have in one edition. Punapunam.
I've got that somewhere as well, James. The meter works better with that.
Yeah, it does. And this is another reinforcement saying this specifically for Simon, that here, because you've got kairata, which could be imperative plural, do it, or kairata, third singular optative, let one do it. Here, clearly, the kairata, the same kairata, has to be optative, because if a person is going to do punya, then let him do it again and again. It would be a bit illogical to treat that as the imperative. So this is almost the same as the previous one, just mutating things. Punyanche puriso kaira, kaira tenam punapunam. The nam or enam is an alternative form of just of tam, meaning it. Sometimes with this, with the deictic tat, the pronoun tat, tassa, some of the forms the t can change to a n with exactly the same meaning. But here, kairatenam punapunam. So, punyan che, if the che, this could have been written with anuswara, then new word che. But punyan che, if good, puriso kaira, a man does. So, if a person does punya, kairatenam punapunam, let him do it repeatedly. So, tamni chandam kairata, let him generate, let him make a desire, create a desire. Tamhi, we'd say a desire for it, and Pali would say a desire in it. This is the locative. Sanskrit, tasmin, Pali tamhi. Tamhi chandam kairata, let one generate a desire for it. Then sukho punyasa uchayo, the accumulation of punya is sukha, is happy, is a happy, here means is a happy making thing, as a sukha generating thing. And I think I've mentioned this before, we've got the root chi, meaning to accumulate or to pile up. And this is the ut-chi, the upheaping or piling up, and therefore accumulation. Let me just do the Can you see the iPad? Is that with you? Good, thanks. Oops. So chi, to accumulate. Ut-chi becomes by regular santi uchi. The verbal in Sanskrit and Pali, and the verbal noun chi chaya. So uchaya, the accumulation. And from the same root chi, with the prefix v, it's the opposite meaning, vichaya, then has the meaning of investigation, like unheaping, deconstructing. So in fact, one of the Bodhanga, one of the factors of enlightenment, is Dhamma Vichaya, which is often translated as the investigation of dhammas or the investigation of mental states, the examination of where you are in your citta. And it's like it's investigation, but if you go into the look at the word itself, it's like it has the word of unheaping, like deconstructing. It's like you've got this thing going on in your mind, you want to investigate, so you're pulling it apart, like a mechanism, taking it apart to see what it's made of. In fact, I've heard there's an English Buddhist monk, Bhikkhu Bodhidhamma, some of you may know him, who uses exactly that word. I don't know whether he understood the Pali properly, but he used the word deconstructing. So he said, I feel upset or I feel angry. He said, right, okay, you feel upset or angry. Now deconstruct that, take it to bits. So you investigate that feeling by taking it apart, seeing what it's made of. That is the vichaya.
Can I ask, because Dhamma has got different meanings,
yes.
Is there the possibility of both investigating the Dharma as the teachings and the Dharma as the phenomenology of what is happening?
I think my inclination is to say that it's probably intended to mean here, the Dhamma Vichaya means to investigate your own mental states. Okay. But it can perfectly reasonably be interpreted as the investigation of the teachings. In other words, as you know, there are many layers of teaching. So you can take it a superficial layer, and you can go deeper and deeper by a process of vichaya.
Yeah, in one case it would be Dhamma in the plural, in the other ones would be in the singular.
So that's right.
How does it appear in Pali?
It appears as a compound, so you don't know. Yeah. It's just Dhamma Vichaya. So that leaves it ambiguous.
Yeah.
Now, if they separated out the compound, then it would be less ambiguous, because you could then have Dhammatta Vichaya for the singular or Dhammanam Vichaya in the plural. But as so often happens with these compounds, an ambiguity is left in there simply because of the structure of the compound.
Thank you.
Right. Incidentally, there's we often have a flip, as you know, from a ch to a ka. And from chi, we've got the one way of forming a verbal noun from it, and chaya is how it's done in verbs, uchaya, vichaya, and so on. But if you make a separate noun, you might expect to see chaya, but it's not. It becomes kaya. Now you recognize the word kaya means a body. So this word kaya is in fact from the root chi. So the word for body, in fact, just means the conglomeration, the accumulation of stuff. So in other words, the very word body itself recognizes that it's not one integral thing. It's an assembly of numerous parts and elements. And incidentally, just as we have in English via Latin corpus, we talk about a corpus of literature, meaning a body of literature. The word Nikaya, as in Majjhima Nikaya, Digha Nikaya, and so on, that is from that same root. The Kaya is just a body, normally as an animal or a human body, but the Nikaya just therefore is a corpus, a collection, an accumulation. So the Majjhima Nikaya is the corpus of the middle length texts, and the Digha Nikaya, the long corpus, or the corpus of the long texts. Right. So this these verses 2 and 3 we can virtually treat as one entity. I think we can regard ourselves as having completed those two now, unless there are any more queries arising in which we can.
Yes.
Please.
Another question.
Yes, please, Christine, come in.
Yeah. When I look at the Pali that I have in my Dhammapada here, that first line does this.
Hang on, I've just lost me.
First line.
Yeah, I mean, but I've actually trying to call it up on my screen. The wretched thing is evading me. Hang on, has it got hidden? Got hidden behind you lot on my gallery. Here I was just trying to find it on my screen and call it up. Okay, here we have it. Yes, please, Christine, go ahead.
Well, I think in a sense you've answered it when I see that. The only difference I see with the version I have, which has the kairatetam, ETAM.
Okay, yeah. Enam and etam. Etam is the more common form. Enam is just a permissible or alternative to it. You will very often find that where you get these permissible alternative forms, you might have a Thai edition has one, a Burmese has another, a Sri Lankan edition has another. You very often find that. You will also, I think, almost all, not always, but mostly find that where you get these differences between what different editions say, it's a difference that doesn't actually matter. They're just valid or alternative forms.
Same meaning.
But without, so kairatetam and kairatenam.
Yeah. Okay.
I tend to think that the original writer might have used the N simply to have, it's just a poetic device of avoiding the T followed T and T following with one following close on. Kairatenam sounds a little bit nicer than kairatetam. Sounds a bit, but it actually makes no difference whatsoever to the meaning.
Right.
It's not wondering. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
And this is purely attributable to the way it's turned up in different manuscripts that were being used by whoever was producing that edition of the text. Nothing sinister in it at all. Okay.
I was wondering whether the shape of the N and the T being rather similar, it crept in some transcriptions maybe or something.
That can happen. I'll be right with you, Roger. I'll be right with you. That can happen. And there's one. It does. I have to say yes. It's certainly possible, because however diligent and assiduous these holy ancient monastic scribes were, I'm sure that they were subject to human nature and fatigue like the rest of us, a carelessly written thing, or indeed a carelessly read thing. There's one interesting one where My goodness, I've started. We have the so. Well, we have
Are you writing,
Pali.
James?
Oh, sorry. Normally you're quicker off the mark than that, Paladin. Well, thank you. So the Nisarana and Nisarga, they occur, and I'll mention it here because of the scribal errors in the Bodhicharyavatara, which is of course in Sanskrit, which is a very popular text in its Tibetan translation. Nisarana, which in Pali would be Nisarana, means an escape, and Nisarga means renunciation. Now, Nisarana is from our root sri, meaning to go, and ni, out. From our root sri, we get sara, as in verbal noun sara, as in samsara, repeated going round and round and round, is that samsara. Nisarana, sarana and sara are alternative ways of making the verbal noun. So nisarana means getting out of something, like the escape from samsara is the nisarana, which in Pali becomes nisarana. And the other root, srij, meaning to release or to let go, the nisarga means releasing something from yourself, and therefore a renunciation of it. It's as if it's some vice that you have let go. And in Pali, we have the same. It's nisarga. Now, in the Bodhicharyavatara, in the Sanskrit traditions, it is indisputably nisarana, and it is indisputably used in a context that has to mean escape. But it has turned up in, I don't know whether all of them, but it has turned up in at least one, because lots of people make the mistake, Tibetan translation, where whoever did the translation, I don't know where the fault has lain, but either it was a carelessly written manuscript or a carelessly read manuscript or a blurred manuscript, but he's interpreted nisarga, read nisarga instead of nisarana, and has translated renunciation instead of escape, which is actually, and here it's an actual departure from the clear meaning that Shantideva intended. Now, all right, we have nisarana, and nisarga. Now, I've written this in kind of a modern Devanagari form, but you know what these old Devanagari was like, wasn't quite as clear as that always. So here you have got a very distinct, and this one I'm going to stand up and fight and say this is either an erroneous copying or an erroneous reading. And some of you know Roy Sutherland. I'm happy to say that earlier this year, Roy Sutherland did actually agree with me on this point. So I got Roy because he's very well versed in the Tibetan side of it. Anyway, so this just gives you an example of how these ancient and sacred texts, sometimes errors can creep in. But anyway, with the kind of differences we're talking about in the Dhammapada, I think all of the ones I've seen so far are kind of genuine, legitimate variations. There may have been a blurred text, or somebody may have misread it, but misread it to be something that it could equally correctly have been. Sorry, I've kind of rabbited on a bit here. Roger, you had a query.
James, if we can just go back to Nikaya.
Yes.
The prefix ni, what what does it mean in this case? Or
It means the primary meaning is in. In fact, our English word in is etymologically the same, but with the sounds reversed, ni and in. So it just means an embodiment into one, bringing things together into one corpus.
right, because it sometimes sort of implies down, doesn't it? Knee.
It does. So the analogy for it's the incidentally ut. The opposite of ni is ut. And the ut implies both out. In fact, ut is etymologically cognate with our word out. And there's like an analogy of water for this movement. So the ni, if you're going into water, it follows that you are going down from air into water. And if you are coming out of water, it follows that you are necessarily coming upwards. And that's why these two prefixes, ni and ut, that originally had the meanings in and out, have an extended meaning down and up.
Thank you.
But just want to say the original meanings in and out, I'm fairly confident in saying, but the extended meanings, imagine motion into and out of water.
Thanks.
So was there any more on this one? In which case we can, sorry, I've been jumping all over the place, particularly with the error I made last week. So if there's no more on this, we can then proceed to the Karaniya Metta Sutta and finish off. I think we're meant to be finishing off verse 9. Here's I'll pull it up. So again, I think I just realized the muddle I made last week has had even more ramifications than I thought, because I think we had also partly done this one as well. Am I right? So tipan, present participle from the root sta, Sanskrit would be tishtan, Pali tipan, standing. Charan, walking. Nisinno is the past participle form. Seated or sat. Sayano, the ana ending is an alternative present participle ending, so lying down. So standing, walking, seated, or lying down. Yavatassa vigatamidho. Yavata, so long as, or to the extent that. His middha, his lethargy, is vigata, gone. So this the vigata, the gata, when they're from the root gam, gata means gone, and vigata means gone away. In other words, your lethargy has gone away. It's often used, you are free of something. You are vigataminta, you're free of lethargy. So this assa here, remember that we have this ambiguity here in that it's not an ambiguity of meaning, but an ambiguity in word. Let me just come on. Sorry. I'm trying to find. Here we are. This assa, which is what we've got here. This is one of the one of the disadvantages that Pali suffers from that Sanskrit doesn't. So we have, in Sanskrit, we have asya, and we have ashva, and we also have syat, which is the optative form, let one be. And remember, all of these become asa in Pali. So the asa from the Sanskrit asya means of him. We have asa from ashwa, meaning a horse, equus in Latin, the shataka, and the syat becomes asa, let one be. In fact, in this particular occasion, the Italian is closer to the Sanskrit than the Pali is, because there's some syat, the equivalent in Italian is sia, the subjunctive from essere, sia. So here we have the and I'm sure that the Veneto is even closer to the Sanskrit than the standard Italian is. There are so many wonderful Veneto expressions that seem to be closer to the Sanskrit.
It is just a sia in Veneto as well.
It's the same sia, okay.
Yeah.
And for the French speakers, it's the equivalent of soi, and in Spanish sea, and in Latin sit. These are also the subjunctive forms, which more or less corresponds to the optative in Sanskrit and Pali. So here, let me get it back for you. So this asa is the third singular active that's the present optative for so long as one is, but it's a bit of an for so long as one might be. That's why the optative form is used here. So long as one is vigatamiddho, literally freed of lethargy. Etang sating adhitaya. So to maintain, there, that's a translation. You adhi, we have to stand to it. It's your duty, like military. You stand to, ready for action. Adhi, to or up to. We have the word adhitana in Pali, meaning that you set yourself a resolve. If you're embarking on a venture, you create an adhitana, which in Sanskrit is adhishtana. You're standing to it. You're standing on duty, to attention, ready for action, ready to do it. And this again is the optative form, adhiteya. Let one stand to it. I'm just going to call up the Manu Williams again. So it's looking up in the Sanskrit form. Remember adhi ta, because of the I preceding in the same word becomes the sh. So adhishta. So literally to stand on, and then stand over, superintend, transcend, attain, arrive at. In Pali, it's got much more of almost more of a spiritual meaning. It's like a resolve to do something. Let's just call up the oops, wrongness to that. The meaning in Pali has been extended from what it was in Sanskrit. So decision, resolution, also in the bad sense of obstinacy. I mean, you're making up your mind to do something. You've resolved on it.
Maybe in the Buddhist Sanskrit as well, because the Triratna has got an Adhisthana center. It is a retreat center.
Yeah, thanks for that, Marianne. I would say definitely yes. You have quite a number of expressions that you do not find, or words I should say, that you don't find in the classical Sanskrit literature. they have taken on certain specialized meanings in Pali, and the later Mahayana Sanskrit literature have actually borrowed those meanings out of Pali and given them a Sanskrit form, if they didn't have one already. Here it did have that Sanskrit form already, but without the specialized meaning. And then, as Mariana's just told us, in the Buddhist Sanskrit, it has borrowed that specialized meaning from the Pali. That's a fairly frequent occurrence. I mean, looking at the those of you who are doing the Bodhicharyavatara with me, there are quite a few cases there where you get words that are being used in a specifically Buddhist way, Sanskrit words, and borrowed back from Pali. So that's the name of a retreat center, is it, Mariano? Just to remind you, the very name of the center you're in reminds the retreatants of the adhisthana, this resolve, this resolution, going to do it, going to stick at it, is the meaning of it. Yeah. Where is this retreat center, Mariano? I don't think I'd heard of it.
I think it might be in Norfolk or there.
Okay, right.
But Roger probably can correct me.
No, I think it's in Worcestershire.
Okay, thank you.
And called the Adhisthana Center.
Yeah.
Well.
It's almost like the HQ now in the UK.
Oh, of which organization?
The Tree Ratna.
Oh, okay, right. I'll look it up. The Adhisthana Center. Right. Thank you for that. So here we've got it. Let one adhiteya. We've now got the same verb, but with a direct object. So you've got to do an adhisthana on the sati. In other words, to resolve to maintain it. It's like a mental resolution to keep at it. So this sati, one should maintain, resolutely maintain. Brahmametam viharam idhamahu. Idham means it means here, often in the sense of right here, right now. It can also mean in this present life. Idham va huram va. Hura means afterwards. Idham va here or afterwards is often found to mean in the present life or in the life that occurs after the present life. But here is just here or in this, you can interpret it either way. Mariano, please.
Yeah, my last one before I disappear. Middo and Madud. I was wondering whether they actually come from the same root, including mud.
Mud. I think, I haven't diligently enough researched this word, but I think the answer has to be no, because we've got an aspirated the there. And one thing that Sanskrit and Pali, the native speakers, and it's the same in modern Hindi and the other, as far as I know about modern Hindi, but the other languages in northern India as well, the native speakers never confuse them because the aspirate and non-aspirate are two such completely different sounds to the native ear, any more than the native English speaker would confuse tanks and thanks. They're just two completely different sounds. You might accidentally miswrite them, but you'd never mishear them as a native speaker or misuse them. The mudu, the one that becomes mudu, meaning soft, is a non-aspirate. The root is mrid. Mrid. And actually the root meaning of it is to grind, because the idea of grind something to powder. So it becomes, there's no resistance left. It becomes all all powdery. And you have the expression arimardana, the grinder of one's enemies. So you not only defeat your enemies, but you grind them to dust. And it's from there, from this root mrid, that we get the Sanskrit mridu and the Pali mudu. There has the meaning of soft. But soft, mentally relate it back to the root meaning of the word, which is mrid, meaning to grind.
Thank you.
Okay, Mariano, you're off to the Marsden, are you?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye then. Bye. I keep losing the wretched thing. Come on, where's it gone? Oh, here we are. The word vihara, we all know that word was meaning a monastery. It originally was an abstract noun, just meaning abiding, the act of abiding. And then by extension, the place where one abides. And then by extension, specifically to mean where the monks live. But it was originally just an ordinary meaning of to abide, to stay somewhere. That's where you regularly stay. And that's how it's used in a mental sense here, where you kind of mentally abide. That's your regular way of being. So that's the meaning of the vihara here. Ahu it's a perfect tense. It's one of the very, very few occurrences in Pali. There is a separate perfect reduplicated perfect tense in Sanskrit, which does not generally exist in Pali, but for a few stray occurrences. And ahu just means they have said, literally, they have said. So and it's often used to mean one says, it is said, or one hears, they have said, it is recorded as being. So Brahma here, meaning divine, of course. Etang sating aditya, let one maintain, let one resolutely stick to etang sating, this literally remembering, and then of course mindfulness, the word normally translated by sati is mindfulness. So let one maintain this sati. Ahu, one hears, they have said, it is said, meaning on authority. Brahmam etam viharam idamahu. They have said etam, this, to be the divine abiding right here. In other words, you don't wait until you're dead to get a divine abiding. If you can maintain these qualities, then you will be living like Brahma, living in this divine abode, idam, right here in this life. So, were there any queries arising out of this verse? Right, well, we could do recitation of it. Simon, you're first in my gallery. Would you like to do a recitation of the verse? Remember, the first word involves a bit of a tongue twister because you've got the dental ta, it starts with dental ta, and the second sound is the doubled retroflex aspirated ta.
No pressure there then.
No pressure there. A breeze, a breeze.
Tittam charam nisinno va sayano va yavatassa vigata midho etam satim aditeya brahmametam viharam idham ahu.
Yes, very nice indeed. Very nice, Simon. How about yourself, Keith? Next in the gallery.
Titam charam nisinova vayanova yavatassa vigata mito etam satim aditeya ramam etam viharam idam ahu.
All right, very good. One point I did want to mention, just get a certain book down. 1 second. Which is there's a general rule that where you have a final M, if it's followed by a consonant, it becomes the anuswara, it becomes a subdotted M. If, on the other hand, it's followed by a vowel, it's just the ordinary full consonantal M. That's the general rule, and that is the rule that is followed in prose. However, in poetry, and particularly things where they might be chanted, it is permissible, and it's often done, to create an anuswara where it's grammatically not justified, but it's required for the meter. Now, I'm looking here at a particular chant book that I know some of you will recognize. Simon will recognize. Some of you may well recognize this. It's the Samatha chanting book, and I'm just, because here etang in prose you see etang satimadhiteya, but I'm just seeing from our chanting book that in fact for the meter this is made into an anuswara. Why is it done? It's done because you need a heavy syllable. So instead of etang satimadhiteya, it's etang satingadhiteya. You treat it as a long, heavy syllable, not atima, but ating-a. And similarly, with viharam, I'm seeing in this chanting book, that also viharam idhamahu, viharam idhamahu. In ordinary prose, it would be viharam idhamahu. Viharam idhamahu with a short, but here's viharam idhamahu. So this is a departure from the grammatical norm for the purposes of the poetic meter. Okay, so I think we've got time for a couple more. Roger, would you like to have a go?
Titam charam nisino va sayano va yavatassa vigata mido etam sitam aditeya brahmam etam viharam idam ahu.
Okay, very good. Apart from the fact that you switch the vowels around this, saptim, saptim. You said sitam, saptim aditeya. This is, of course, it's a word, the sati, meaning mindfulness.
Sure, sure.
Right, okay, thank you, Roger. We're round to Christine. We're round to you.
Okay, here we go. Itam charam nisino wasayano wayavatasa vikatamido etam satim aditaya brahmametam viharam idam ahu.
Okay, there was a slight fall down over the lengths here. Sayano va yavatasta. Sayano va yavatasta.
Sayano vayavatasa.
That came out perfectly. Very good indeed. And Judith, one for you.
Itam charam nisino va sayano va yavatasa vigato mido. Itam satim aditeya brahmam etam viharam idam ahu.
Okay, very nice. There was actually the other tongue twist. The tongue is one. The aditeya is equally quite a tongue twister. In fact, even worse than tongue, because you've got the voiced aspirate dental adhi, followed by the unvoiced doubled aspirate retroflex aditeya. So that, can you say aditeya?
Aditeya.
That came out very nicely. Yeah, it is a bit of a tongue twister.
Yes.
Halden.
Pitang tarang nesinova sayanova yavatasa vegata mitho etang sating aditeya brahmam etang viharam itam ahu.
Very nice indeed. I think everyone can have a go now. Shri Animala, would you like to recite or chant for us?
Titan charanisino sayano vayavatassa vigatamido etan sating aditeya brahmametam sating bhakmametam viharang idamahu.
Very nice. Mind you, you were chanting the Karanaya Metta Sutta as a little girl, weren't you?
Yeah,
Yes,
we chant every day.
Indeed, yeah. Okay, so that's it. We're on 1 o'clock. Would you like to have a go then, Charlene? Very good. Glad you come in for it.
Tittam charam nesino va sayano va yavat sana vigata midu etam satim aditeyo brahman itam viharam idam aho.
Idamahu.
Idamahu.
Very nice. Can you just say again, Yavatasta?
Yavatasa.
Right. Now, there's something slightly unusual here. Normally, in Pali, when you get a long vowel followed by a double consonant here, Yavata, asa, it normally shortens, but occasionally, especially in poetry, you'll find it's retained long. You would tend not to find it in the older prose. And could be, I can't recall having found it for example, in the texts of the old prose suttas, but you will find it creeping into poetry. Yavatassa vigatamidho. Just say again, vigatamidho, midho. Charlene?
Vigatamidu.
Yeah, remember, hold that D distinctly for it. Midho.
Vigatamidu.
That's much better. Very good indeed. Okay, wonderful. So that kind of winds us up for 2024. And I will see you hopefully in next year, all of you, and some of you, of course, in a few minutes' time for the Sanskrit.
Thanks, James.
Okay,
Thank
wonderful.
you,
Then.
James.
So wonderful Christmas and New Year to you all. Whom I don't see again before then. Otherwise,
Thank you, James.
see some of you soon. Bye then. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.